Hello, foster care advocates. My name is John Adams, and I am the host of the Foster Care Remix. Welcome, foster care advocates. I am John Adams, the host of the Foster Care Remix, and we have an awesome guest with us today. And very, very nice to meet you, Jenny, and for the first time. But just want to introduce Jenny to you guys if you don't know who she is. This is Jenny Tice, and her husband is Benjamin, and they open their home and hearts to children in need through foster care. They have 3 children of their own and have fostered over 40 children.
Yes.
That's incredible. Mm-hmm. Before Lily Pad was a concept, Jennifer worked as a labor and delivery nurse, but still felt called to do more than just foster. So she now serves full-time as the executive director of Lily Pad, a soft place to land, which is a South Carolina faith-based nonprofit carrying forward the mission that began in their own home. So this started with you and your husband in your house is kind of an idea that's and this was to create trauma-informed, safe and welcome spaces for supportive resources for children, victims of trauma, and others experiencing crisis at their first point of contact. Her leadership helps advance Lily Pad's commitment to restoring dignity, safety, and hope for every child in foster care and individuals navigating moments of crisis. So welcome, Jenny, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll just kind of get started here and just tell us a little bit more about your background and how did this start? I think it started in 2022. Is that right?
It did.
Okay.
Yeah, it started. Like you already said, we've been foster parents going on 14 years now.
Oh wow.
Have had 40 children through our home. We have a daughter who's 16, who's biological to us, and then 2 sons who we adopted through foster care, who are biological to each other. We adopted them in 2015, and something I've learned in the time, learned a lot, but that oftentimes foster parents, they foster and then after an adoption maybe close their home. We felt compelled to continue fostering. We felt called to it. It was our ministry. My husband's family was missionaries. We didn't feel called to a foreign mission field, but we believed this was a mission field. Fostered a lot of babies because I was a labor and delivery nurse.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of the medicines for withdrawals and things like that. And but it was about a decade in. We had a little girl placed with us, an infant who was abandoned at the hospital. It was before anyone knew COVID was coming. It was October before COVID. And they actually called us and said she was abandoned at the hospital, baby girl, 5 pounds. Would you take her? And I, at the time, we weren't even an adoptive home and knew she was going to need to be adopted. And they said, well, I asked, why do you not have a family that wants a baby girl?
Yeah.
And they said, well, we think maybe people are afraid of what her outcome might be given everything she has going on. And we said, well, we'll be a bridge. That's what we feel called to do. Care for her, love her. When an adoptive family comes forward, or if she's reunified, we'll be a bridge for a time. So she was placed in our home. And like I said, that was about a decade into our foster care career. And she was with us for 6 months. This was going into COVID. And once we were all locked down in our homes, had our 4 children there, she's the 4th. I looked at my husband and said, after 6 months, I said, could you really put her in somebody else's arms? And he couldn't get the words out. And I thought, okay, Lord, maybe our family's not complete.
Yeah.
Well, due to several reasons, and with foster care, I always am sensitive about how much I share about my children's stories, but due to several reasons, COVID being one of them, they were clearing out prisons and things. Her mother was released from prison from a longer prison sentence. And though her case was supposed to be an adoptions case, they switched it at 20 months of her being with us to reunification, which we'd been through so much as foster parents, but this was never something that was on our minds of something that could happen.
Yeah.
We love all the children that God brings to our home, and they are loved deeply. But when you start to allow adoption to be an idea, it kind of bring down a wall of we can think about the future.
Yeah.
Well, then things swapped. And it was a very traumatic, probably the most traumatic experience we've had as foster parents. Now, I know so much going on in her life,
Yep.
her little life, her biological family's life. There's lots of mixed emotions. But going through that was when we started to think, okay, Lord, we'd like to keep serving these children and these families, but maybe it's time to close our home. Lots of emotions with that situation.
Yeah.
We knew that there was children, older children, spending a lot of time in the DSS offices. We had never fostered teenagers. We'd never raised a teenager. So there was a lot of fear around accepting a teenager.
I've got 2, and I still don't know if
Yes.
I'm doing a good job. Or
Now we have raised a teenager, and we're like, okay, we had a lot to learn. But we felt comfortable reaching out to our local office and saying, if you have kids that are coming in on the weekend, they're going to be staying there late into the night, whatever it is. This little girl was doing weekend visits back home, so her room was empty. And I did not want to look at an empty room.
Yeah.
I said, you can call us and a teenager can come stay here so they don't have to stay in the office. Well, the very first one placed with us, her name was Ashlyn. She was 15 at the time. And we learned Ashlyn's story, and she shared with us she'd been in foster care since the age of 3, adopted at the age of 10, but then was surviving abuse in her adoptive home, which tragically is something I've also learned happens a lot.
Yep.
And so it wasn't that we believed we were her savior by any means. It was supposed to be just for the weekend that she was staying with us. But also our family and friends and church family, they all laugh because they're like, it's never just a weekend or just a few days. But our family and church family did wrap around us and say, if you'd like her to stay with you so she doesn't have to move to yet another home, we'll help you. Well, she also had always been placed with a sister, and it's easy to say, fortunately, always placed with a sister, but there's nothing fortunate about their situation.
Understand.
But her sister came to stay with us then too, because we're all about keeping siblings together. And so I laid my head on my pillow December of 2021, December 31st of 2021, and thought, Lord, what have we done? We have 2 girls that are for sure going to need adopted again. What are those chances at, this age that they'll be adopted together? The little one making her transitional visits back and forth, getting ready for reunification, knowing what that was going to do to our hearts and to our kids and to our extended family. And then our 3 kids. Well, it was a few weeks later. I'll tell you the best part of the story. My sister approached us. She's 4 years older than me, never been married, never had children, but always worked in the school systems in the high schools. And she said, do you think they'd let me adopt the girls? I said, they would jump up and down, I think, to have you adopt the girls. And a year later, my sister did adopt those girls, and they're our nieces now. So I say that because Ashlyn has used her experience and shared so much with us, and she planted the seeds of Lily Pad.
Wow.
We were looking for something else to do, so it was on our minds to be actively seeking something else to do. But she shared with us, for example, the day she came to our home. She reported her abuse at school. She was questioned by the police. She was taken to gather a few things. She was brought back to the office. And though she was placed with us that night, she spent hours in the DSS office in a cubicle with a stranger, exhausted, traumatized, and she fell asleep in a cubicle chair. And I literally had, if it was a cartoon, a light bulb went off. Yep. And I was like, we can do better than that. So I reached out to a friend of mine who is an interior designer, also a foster mom, said, hey, let's go over to the DSS office, talk to some people over there, see if we can raise some funds, see if they'll just let us create a comfortable place away from the offices, away from the conversations of other kids' cases. No, this foster home can't take you. Ashlyn said it was very traumatic for her that she, woke up to hearing conversations being separated from her sister. And so, that's what we did. And it just started out with crowdsourcing some funds, put a lily pad in Greenville County Adoptions Office, which is off of Pleasantburg Road.
Yep.
And then one into the DSS office that's now off of Halton Road. And after that, we started getting phone calls from DSS offices like, could you come do this for us? They just needed to see it. Yeah. So they are living room type spaces right within the DSS offices for these children to have a comfortable place for whatever reason brings them to the DSS office. Coming into care, meeting with an attorney, waiting for a family visit. There's a place prepared for them.
That's so cool. I mean, what a beautiful concept, beautiful story, especially how God's maneuvering through all this, and it's hard to tell when you're in that season, of what does he want me to do.
Right.
I even kind of struggled with that, and should I, I knew that my story's a little different, but I knew that, once I, kind of started learning more about foster care, my wife and I weren't sure if we were meant to be foster parents, so that's not something that we have, felt on our heart to be led to do. But I was like, but I have to do something. Like, I can't just ignore, this feeling. And so it's so cool when I sit down and talk with all these different people. We all kind of have a similar, I just knew I had to do something. And then things just kind of started, happening. And I read a book by Jason Johnson called Reframing Foster Care.
Oh, yes.
And Brad gave that to me before, before I came on, and he was kind of like, this is either going to scare you or you're going to say, I got to do something. And I remember reading that book, and probably about the fourth chapter in, I couldn't put it down.
Yes.
Tears were flowing almost every chapter, just, the stories, and most of them were good. It's, there was some tragic stuff, but, just when I got done with it, I was like, I got to be involved somehow, some way. And, it's led me to meet some very interesting people and some great organizations throughout the state. And it's part of the reason why we do this podcast, because we want to exploit that and let people know what's out there and what other people are doing. And hopefully that spark might hit them, and they can say, well, I can do something.
Yes.
I think that's Jason Johnson's, kind of tagline. Everybody can do something. Yep.
Yeah. And I've been known to say often, not everybody should be foster parents.
Yeah.
But everyone can do something.
Yeah.
And what's been really cool, I've loved in the past 4 years of LilyPad, is meeting so many different people, seeing the different talents the Lord has given them, and how they choose to then use them to further the impact that LilyPad can have, or care for the vulnerable. It's been really neat. And it's taught me, because I've said not everyone should be foster parents, everyone can do something, but I didn't exactly know what that looked like.
Yeah.
And now I get to see it firsthand. It's really cool.
That's cool. Well, what do you think, is that LilyPad is kind of aiming to mix things up a little bit? I know what LilyPad does, but just, in your mind, this is kind of taken, this podcast is kind of talking more about, old ways, this is always how it's been done. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, why can't we make it better? And then that's why you see a lot of these nonprofits and, opening up and starting to do stuff to help out, in the community. But is there something that you feel like, we've really, kind of mixed things up in this area, and the positive, that comes out of that?
Well, we see it all the time in government agencies, especially, which is what, child welfare is. If the status quo is working, why introduce something that could create, conflict or something? You just never know. Like, they're afraid of introducing something new sometimes. It's working. Let's not do something
let's not rock the boat.
Let's not rock the boat. Might cost more money, what have you. I will say I've as a foster parent, I'm just going to be very transparent. As a foster parent, I've had plenty of times where I have not trusted the decisions that have been made by our state child welfare leaders, but I trust God with who He's put in those positions. LilyPad has given me an opportunity to come face to face with those people and know them as human beings. And my husband's in law enforcement. I work in the hospital system. Definitely situations where you have one bad apple, ruin it for the whole group. Of course, there's going to be decisions that are made because it's a human agency that is, it's run by humans. There's going to be mistakes made. But overall, there are excellent people working there who want to do good work with very limited resources. They love the children that they are caring for. They love the families that they are caring for. And they are doing a lot with a very little amount. I have had people ask me, challenge me, not very many, but some, well, why should this be a nonprofit where we donate to you to do this? Why isn't the state doing it themselves? well, why aren't they paying case managers more?
Yeah.
Why are case managers
teachers,
caseloads or teachers, right?
Yeah.
There's many things that we could say, well, why, try to find the blame and whose responsibility it is, but we all have a responsibility, especially if you're a believer, to serve the vulnerable. So yes, we're shaking it up a little bit. These offices, it's sometimes very hard to find space. But we will go through and I'll talk to the directors about, well, how do you use this space, or how, tell me your process. And then just giving them, it's like I told you before we started recording, I recently hired. And so there's a new blood in our agency, fresh eyes. And they come in with so much excitement. That's kind of how we can go into the DSS offices and say, okay, this is how you've been doing it, but I also see that you could do this. This might save you time. We could set up a process for you, a system. We're headed to Georgetown in June, and I spoke to the director yesterday and was asking her, well, where do you store things when people donate things for kids? Because they have very limited space even for a lily pad. So she took me through and showed me, and I said, well, we'll bring some shelving with us and some bins, help try to organize that while we're there. That's not something we always advertise as what we do, but we want to help where we can and set them up for success. And so fortunately, we had that first director, Catherine Harmon at the Upstate Adoptions Office, who, when we went to her and explained what we wanted to do, she saw the vision. She absolutely knew it could help them, even if the kids were just there for a short amount of time. And so she said yes and let us do it. And then once people see it, they know that it could work for them. And this is not just a South Carolina problem. We've had over 20 states reach out asking us to do the same thing for them. And
just in 4 years.
And I had another person say, I hope I don't offend you, but it seems like a really easy idea. I'm like, it is. But we were foster parents for 10 years before it ever crossed our minds. And it came from a young person who had lived in the system. We had to hear it from her, exactly what was happening. And that's where the seed was planted.
And you mentioned fresh eyes.
Yes.
Here's somebody that was in it.
Yes.
But you're only limited to what I know and what I'm seeing here in my home, but I didn't experience that type of childhood. And everything that you go through, and the mental and it's just, the trauma. I when I was kind of looking through your website and stuff, and talking with Marissa, it was a lot to do with trauma-informed care. How has these rooms kind of helped in that area?
Yeah, I was also gonna just say, just to tag on that, Mike Leach was the director at the time when we started for the state, and I have to give him credit, and Don Barton, who's over child welfare now for the state, he said to me, Jenny, this is what we should have been doing and the way these children should be treated. They all wanted it, and they all want it, and
they just didn't know how to implement it,
and they need community help. They need us to come forward, and they need foster parents, but they also need help in other ways. And so I was thankful for them being accepting of the idea, because we very much need them to be on board with us to move forward, because we're going into their buildings. So trauma-informed care. I spoke to one of our occupational therapists who was caring for the little girl that we were fostering at the time. Told her my thoughts on what we were looking at doing. And she said, I definitely encourage you to put a rocking chair in, because people who have experienced trauma, or children with special needs, if they could rock like us on a porch swing or a hammock, how it calms our nervous system, she said they will retain difficult information better. So every lily pad gets a rocking chair. And, we even have like our kind of standard items that we use, and we have a small, medium, large. Like, we will make a rocking chair fit in the space. So every room has a rocking chair. We have weighted blankets. We have fidget toys. We've learned as we've moved throughout the state. We L-bracket the lamps down to the tables. We secure the tables, the side tables, to the walls, so that any child can experience being in the lily pad. I know that, I always try to, I have my own thoughts about it, where people are like, well, we don't do that in our own home, and these children are supposed to be able to come stay in, people's homes. But we want to set the case managers up for success and make it as easy as possible for them to be in these rooms and interact with the kids. And we want to set the kids up for success. And so, you know, in some of in the rooms that are more heavily used, we might put a case on the TV. I will tell you, those cases are very expensive though, and TVs are not anymore. So I'd almost rather replace a TV if it needs to happen. We use books that we look at a lot of books that Christian foster parents have written, children's books. There's a great author and mother, Raquel McLeod. She was a child of kinship care herself. She's a birth mom. She then became a kinship care provider for her stepsister or half-sister. Just a lot of lived experience. And she has written very practical children's books. Why Do I Live with My Grandparents? ABCs of Adoption and Foster Care. Books about kinship care. They're beautifully illustrated by one of her daughters. And so we include those books in all of the rooms. We include scripture on the walls, which to some is like, how'd you get away with that? You know, you're dealing with the state. But thankfully, we live in South Carolina. Yeah. But one of the states that reached out to us was New York. And I called them. I said, you understand we're a faith-based organization, right? Yeah. And they said, yes, but we need all the help we can get. And so though people had fears that we might run into red tape, no, it's been great. Like, the state's been very easy to work with. They want to learn the resources that we have in the room so that they can best serve these kids. So we send them all, like, once their lily pad is in, a letter explaining what's in there, how the things can be used, sound machine, night light. Yeah. We really try to provide them with a lot of resources that will help them.
I don't think our conversation's doing the audience justice. When I first heard that concept, I was just thinking an office with maybe a bed and, you know, just some stuff for them to sleep. Like,
that was my initial thought.
Very basic. And when I started seeing pictures, and so I encourage, you know, the audience, go to the website and look at some of these rooms. They're nicer than my room.
Yes, they're nicer than my living room.
They're beautiful. Like, this is not just, you know, something that I was blown away. Almost something like that you would see. You know, I visited, went to CAFO.
Yes.
Been last 2 years, and this year's Atlanta. I'll be there again this year. But the one in Houston was last year. And when I was there was a church that had kind of built a counseling center. Okay. And every room was for a different age for a child. So you had, like, you know, the babies and stuff like that. And then the room was gorgeous. And I'm like, this isn't just something thrown together, you know. And then, like, middle school had their own theme. High school was all music type stuff and posters. And it was just like, there was an occupational therapy room where they had, like, swings hanging from the ceiling for they were like, you know, this is one of the best things to help people. And I mean, but every room.
I tried to do a swing.
Did you?
Yeah. The county offices don't love the idea of a swing hanging from the ceiling, hence the rocking chair.
Hence the rocking chair. Yeah. But that was kind of my first experience of, like, this isn't just a place, like, it's a sanctuary.
Thank you for
saying that. Yeah, I mean, I seriously, I'd encourage y'all to go look at the website and look through the pictures and stuff of some of these rooms, because
a lot of thought goes into it. A lot of thought goes into it. Our designer's amazing. The colors, the placement of plants. It's a lot of thought goes into it, because these children deserve that. And so do the families. When they can be used for visitation, I think about, you know, if you're involved in foster care, you've seen the visitation rooms. And I love the idea of a mother being able to go into a living room type room and rock her baby, her child, get down on a clean floor and play. So we use ruggable rugs, which might be one of the most expensive pieces in our room. But they can be picked up and taken and laundered and brought back. It's very important for me that all these rooms stay clean and maintained and are prepared for whoever might encounter them. And we partner with local churches within each county. Or foster parent associations of like faith to maintain these spaces, because we can't be everywhere. And I learned oftentimes the DSS offices, this is kind of, okay, back to the mixing it up. There were churches or organizations that would come in and maybe redesign a visitation room. But then it was left to the office, the DSS, their responsibility to keep it up.
Okay.
They're heavily used spaces by children
Yep.
and children who have experienced trauma. Things are going to be damaged. They're going to be broken. It's going to be worn out. And so we created a maintenance program. So after these rooms are put in, we're committed to maintaining them. So we maintain a budget each year for maintenance. We had a child throw a traumatic fit in one office and kick some doors, and we used kind of these metal cabinets that are fun colors,
Yep.
but easy to clean. We reached out to that company. They replaced the doors, no cost. So we really try to advocate with the companies that we work with. And when people hear what we're doing and how it's serving these children, they want to help.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
That's really neat. I didn't think
a lot
about
of thought
churches.
that's gone into it.
So do you still have churches that maintain that, or do you have
Yes.
an actual crew now? Or
No, we don't
Okay.
have a crew. We have
Right.
a whole maintenance program, volunteers.
Okay.
We have a couple who recently connected with us, a retired couple, and they travel now to some of our sites that don't have a committed maintenance partner, and they'll go and clean them, clean the rug, get everything set back up, which is wonderful. But our desire and our operations director, Kendra Botner, has done a great job of setting up a maintenance system where our partners go in. It's also a way to build relationship with the community, with that local church, with that office. And we encourage our maintenance partners to build that relationship. We have what's called a lily pad champion, which is somebody who works for the DSS office within that county. They communicate with our maintenance partner. So if there's a rush of kids that have come through, children that have had to stay late into the night, so maybe the bedding's been used, whatever it is, they can reach out to our maintenance partner and say, we actually need you to come back, maybe if it's outside of their normal schedule. And then we encourage our churches that we partner with to do other things like cards for the case managers, or take them a Thanksgiving meal, or if you go and there's a child in the lily pad, talk to the case manager about, is there something that you're allowed to bring back for them? You know, we had one maintenance partner. Well, you told me Paige Harrison. She's now Paige Johnson. She's now the director of our board. She's the president of our board of directors. We met because of Lily Pad. Her church raised the funds to bring a lily pad to Greenwood. They provided the volunteers. We went and put the lily pad in. Now Paige and I have become great friends. She's now the president of our board of directors. I love her. They've become a licensed foster family. And she and I were cleaning a lily pad one time, and there was a young boy there. And I engaged him in conversation. And when we left, Paige just said to me, I just listen to you and how you talk to him, and you don't shy away from what he's experiencing, and you just ask him real questions and give him space to answer. And she said, I hope to do that someday. Well, she went back another time without me, and guess who was there? That same boy.
Wow.
And then another time she went back, he was there. And she talked to the director, and she said, can I bring him something? So she went home and made brownies, brought him back to him, brought a basketball. Just that's the relationship we want to see grow between our community partners and our offices, so that the case managers and the children that they're serving feel supported. So
yeah, when I was looking through that, I mean, it's some real Chip and Joanna Gaines type quality in these rooms.
Well, our designer is going to be very happy with
I just can't get over how it just exceeded my expectations of what I thought a room like that would be. But it makes so much sense now that I hear you say all of that these kids probably feel way more comfortable. They probably never experienced a living space like that. Clean, everything in place.
I did not have all this planned out when we started. Yeah. I just want to say that.
No,
when you say I want to, I thought it would be a room with a bed. That's honestly, I was thinking, let's put a couch and a TV up.
Yeah.
Turned into these beautiful spaces. And I'm thankful for it, because I've had the same thought that you just mentioned. I want these children to know that this is a possibility for their life. They can have this and desire this, and even the families that come through. And we don't use terribly expensive pieces or anything like that. And then even somebody mentioned to us, if we have the time to get more detailed on our social media about how we put the rooms together, because it could help special needs families to feel like they could have this type of room in their home and it be manageable with how we attach things.
There's another business idea.
Listen, there's a lot going on there.
Hey, you're a foster parent. We'll come and fit a room. We'll create a room for you.
Yeah, you sound like one of our board members. He's like,
I'm a visionary.
He said, don't you think we should design a room for a child in a foster home? I'm like, sure, just add it to our plate. We'll do it.
But as you kept talking about that, and then I'm thinking about the room, and as a child, just the safe feeling, even though they're just got ripped away from their house. I'm assuming that most of these children that are using these rooms, something tragic has happened, and the police have either shown up or DSS has shown up to take away the child.
Yes.
And they probably don't have, a suitcase that they were able to pack. It's just kind of maybe what they had on, and they show up, and and I could just sit there and try to put myself in that position and just like, I don't know. It's hard for me to wrap my head around what a 5, 6, 15-year-old, 3-year-old is thinking. Where am I? Why am I here? I would just want to go home and have no clue what's probably going on inside the house, and to have that safety and a place to sleep that night. And not, like you said, fall asleep in a chair.
We're not
for 2 or 3 days. Because, essentially this room is to be a bridge, if my understanding is correctly, before they get placed into a permanent foster home, hopefully.
Yes, the goal is never for them to stay there overnight. I think sometimes that's, it's misleading because we are providing beds. It's never for them. It's not to make it easier for the department to let them stay there overnight. That's not it. And the department would tell you the same thing. They are still actively seeking to find them placement. But kids come in at all times of the day and night. And they come in all kinds of emotional states. They could come in midday and still need a place to sleep. A trauma response is falling asleep. And they need a comfortable place to do that. So, something with a nonprofit that I've learned is people want impact numbers. It's hard to gather that from what we do. We've not asked the departments to keep track of how many kids go through the rooms or anything like that. But
I'm sure you get a pretty good idea of how many people go back to clean.
Yes, we do. Actually, that might be a great way to keep track. We get a good gauge from, we put the one in Greenville DSS. They called us a year later and they said, we have so many kids coming through. We tried to create another room like what you did for us. We don't know how to explain it, but we have things happen in that room, like fights break out or whatever. More trauma responses there. Will you come work your magic on that room? And we said, sure. And she literally said to me, my contact there, she said, I do not know how to describe it, but we don't have that behavior in the lily pad. And I said, well, a lot of thought goes into it. You saw us. It's intentional. But we pray over every lily pad space when we open it. And I genuinely think the Lord is there, watching over these spaces. And the children, the case managers have reported to us better behavior. They have reported to us that they have more opportunity to engage with the children in conversation. Attorneys are now using the spaces to take the kids in there and counsel them about difficult topics they'll be talking about in court if they have to go testify. The Lord is using them in so many ways that when I just thought, I don't want a kid falling asleep in a conference room chair, it's become so much bigger than that. And that's not to give myself credit or my husband credit, but that yes of, we can do this. The Lord took that yes and has done so much more with it, and really thankful for that and proud of it, but just thankful for the way that the state has gotten behind it. The case managers are happy for it and use it and want to know how to use the resources, how the communities come alongside us. It is a nonprofit. I mean, we are funded by
Yeah.
individuals and foundations and churches, and we need those partnerships in order to keep moving forward. And when people hear the need, they do want to help. I think for many years, even the department found it very hard to share what they were struggling with because they didn't want any backlash. Well, they can't make foster homes appear out of nowhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
They can't help the fact that a kid's coming in at 2 a.m. and was making a spot under a case manager's desk to sleep until they could find them a home. It's the reality of the situation, and people have to be aware of it in order for change to start happening.
Yep.
And we're not making any new foster homes appear.
Yeah.
That's not our ministry, but whatever time they're there.
That's our responsibility.
Yes, that's right. That's you. That's on you. But we're treating these children with dignity and respect, and giving the case managers the opportunity and the resources to do the same. And hopefully the children realize, like, the love of Christ, that there is somebody that loves them and cares about them and prepared this for them. There's going to be so many children that will go through a lily pad that will never come through the doors of my home.
Yep.
But hopefully they'll know they're loved.
Yeah, you're talking about churches. I, go around and speak, and I wish, more churches would find ways to get involved in foster care. Definitely, I had a whole other podcast that we had kind of talked a lot about that on that podcast, of just if 10% of the church, in the United States, if they all did something, we'd probably wipe out, foster care altogether. There would be a home for every child, constantly. And it's kind of like, and if every church actually tithed 10%,
Yes.
We could probably pay off the national debt,
Right,
it's kind of one of those,
right.
it's amazing to, but there's a lot of us that just sit back, and I think it's fear of just, the Lord's calling me to do something and I don't know what to do, and I'm afraid, and we kind of turn inward. This is going to be an inconvenience. This isn't going to, this is going to make my life more stressful, and then we don't follow through. We don't take that leap of faith or that step. And the ones that I talk to and I'm around all the time that are involved with this, it's, that's how I felt when we started. Didn't know if this was for us, but none of them have ever regretted it. Even if it was just for 6 months or for a year, the experience that they gained from that,
Absolutely.
I remember reading or hearing Jason Johnson say some stuff at the conference, and one of the things that really stuck with me was, we sit here and thought that we were bringing these children into our home, into our lives, and we're going to, get them to acclimate to what we do. And he was like, no, we are invited into their lives.
Yes.
And we have to, accumulate to what they're doing, acclimate to what they're doing. And it was just like, man.
And it's against our normal instinct.
Yeah.
To step into something that is scary, maybe even dangerous.
Yeah.
It is, it would be unusual in my mind to just jump into it and be like, and have no concerns.
There's some people that they have that ability,
Sure.
And God's given them that talent. No.
No, we had the fears. I mean, going back to just being foster parents before Lily Pad, I mean, my husband was in law enforcement. He had real fears about caring for children of families that he had interacted with. We had real fears about, if we bring teenage boys into our home and we have a teenage daughter, is that crazy? What are we doing? And then even just, I've had well-meaning, friends and family from church. Well, what are you introducing your children to? The stories they hear, the things they learn about the world at such a young age. We're showing them sin. This is
perfect.
No. And redemption, and how God's in control. Forgiveness. And
acceptance.
And we also get to control the narrative a bit while they're in our home. I've thought about that as a parent. We can talk about these really hard things that I didn't talk about growing up, but we get to control the narrative a bit and talk about it in light of scripture and how the Lord is at work. And yeah, I mean, it's not to say we're definitely not perfect at it, and not to say that there haven't been very hard things. You know, our children did have to essentially lose a sister. The little girl that was with us, our organization's named after her. Her name was Lily.
Okay.
And so our
I was getting ready to ask, where did you come up with the name Lily
Yeah,
Pad?
so that came to me just Lily Pad, a soft place to land, and we called her Lily, and so it's named in her honor. But my kids still, to this day, all of us still have fears about her future and all that. But I learned, thankfully, early on after another foster care experience where we had a little one for a year and they went home reunified, which is the goal of foster care. We want to see a family made whole. That my children are not my own, whether I give birth to them, whether I foster them, whether I adopt them.
They're a gift.
They are a gift for a time, and I have a responsibility. And then I have to trust them in the Lord's hands, you know? And I've heard people say, and I agree, they're safer in the Lord's hands than they are in my arms. And I have to trust that and truly believe it. Now, does that mean I don't cry and sob and cry out to God about why is this happening? No, I absolutely do. You can ask some of my closest friends. Like, it is not easy to say goodbye to a child that you have loved for 2 years, or to walk your children through how to do that. But we want our children to come to a saving knowledge of Christ and to have a real relationship with Him. And we have to live that out to them, in front of them, and not just speak it. So foster care has truly been a ministry and a way to live that out, and an opportunity to give our children to serve others.
And I think that's you can't put a price tag on the experience and how that will affect them the rest of their lives, how they see people, the heart that they'll have for the vulnerable.
We pray.
You know, and it's like, you know, I see my daughter and my son, you know, getting involved with stuff, and we try to get them to church as much as possible. And God bless my wife for, you know, for getting into ministry. She was in marketing for years, and then just kind of had like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just feel like, you know, there's more to this. And then like a week after she said that to me, our preacher was like, yeah, we're, you know, in a year or so, we're going to hire a children's minister. And I was like, you should go after that. And she was like, whatever. She's like, I'm not going into ministry. That's what famous, every last famous word. I'm never going to be a preacher. I'm never going to go into ministry. And the next thing you know, here you are. But, you know, once she started going around and talking to churches and seeing what type of children's programs they were doing, and we just didn't have one. You know, I mean, it was all volunteer based, you know, smaller church. But I'm so thankful that our leaders saw a vision of, if we build, you know, a bigger building and get funding for it, you know, what could come and the families. And we literally had probably like 4 or 5 kids when, you know, before they actually hired somebody. And now there's over like, I want to say 55 to 60 that show up every Sunday, but maybe like 80 or 85 that are now there, and the families that are coming in.
That's amazing.
It is pretty neat to see how God's working in that. I know that's just not, you know, we're all very conscious of, listen, you know, God might give me, you know, these gifts, but He's doing the work. He's equipping me to get out there, and then, you know, it's just kind of spreading, and He's taking it. And
so cool how everyone has different gifts. And I'm listening to you speak, and I'm like, there are the visionaries, and I guess that's what I am, you know, the visionary. I saw that this could be, believed it could be. And then you have to have the people that are skilled at, okay, well, how are we going to make this happen? We had to have somebody skilled at, well, how do you put a room like this together? You know, our designer, Kendra, like I said, coming on our team and knowing how to gather people together on how to keep these rooms clean, and then set up QR codes so people can scan a QR code and send it directly to us, a message saying something's broken or damaged, or, you know, she's great at those operations, and then she's really great at just rallying people together. I've had to learn fundraising. I'm not saying I'm great at it,
Yeah.
but it's just really, really cool to see how the Lord has already prepared people to come and serve in many different areas to make a vision come to life. Mm-hmm.
A lot of good stuff. What do you think maybe some of the biggest needs or challenges, maybe facing foster care, in broader crisis response systems, maybe just in South Carolina? I know this is more kind of local, but is there not just what LilyPad's doing, but is there other things that, maybe the audience, sparks an idea, and who knows, maybe in a year from now we're talking about, I saw your podcast and listened to Jenny and she inspired me to go do this.
Yes. Yeah. Well, anyone can do this again in their state. I'll show them how, they can do that. But no, I mean, we need mental health therapists. That's not something to just easy to appear out of nowhere. I spoke with an organization yesterday that comes alongside foster parents and adoptive parents, even long after the adoption's closed, for mental health support. And I'd love to see things put into place to help provide opportunities for longevity of foster parents. We don't have so much turnover, because you can learn so much over time, and to have seasoned foster parents, I think that would help with disruptions of children in foster care. I'd love to see mentorship of like seasoned foster parents and new foster parents kind of passing the torch, but also supporting each other. Because the hardest thing is getting these children placed and then that placement working out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And there's things I think that we could put into place that could come alongside these foster kinship families and help those placements work so that the placement's not disrupted. We see so many placements disrupted. I don't have an answer exactly, but I think there's a lot to be done with mentorship of, like I said, seasoned foster parents and new foster parents. I love the idea of interacting with biological families. I very early on was asking my case managers, can I take the biological mom with us to the zoo so that she can see me interact with my children? And oftentimes when we started foster care, the foster family was the enemy. And for various reasons, like they thought we were trying to take their child or something. And I want these mothers to know I'm not a perfect parent. I'm not a foster parent because I'm a perfect parent. I've been taught how to parent safely. I've taken the classes, and by God's grace, I'm in a position where I can help in this way. But I want to see more interaction with foster families and biological families to then also bridge the gap when reunification is able to happen, that those biological families feel comfortable reaching out to the foster family when they have a need or for babysitting. I think we would see more successful long-term reunification. I have lots of visions and ideas.
I think that was one of the hardest things that I had to learn being in this was praying over the biological families, knowing that, you hear the things that why that child has been taken away from them. I just can't believe, it, and I find myself, I, and I'm like, no, I mean, they're broken. I'm broken in certain areas too. Maybe they didn't have the mentorship or the example to see growing up, and so maybe they were that way, and then they made a bad decision with drugs and alcohol, ended up being an addict and just couldn't ever get over it. And then and I've seen how some of these families come up here when they do their counseling and visits and stuff, and they love their children. I would say the majority that I do see up here
Yes.
really want reunification. They just have no clue how to do it.
Right. And
they just truly don't. And they don't know how
Right.
to overcome that addiction. And they
Right.
don't have the funds or the resources to go to meetings or, or go to rehab for 6 months. They don't have the money for that,
No, I mean, our son's biological father had been an addict since he was 14. And when we interacted with him, he was in mid-30s. He has since passed away. But we tell our sons this, because your children will ask. When you adopt children, they will ask, did my biological parents love me? Your father loved you. He came out of a visit one day and went to your daddy, my husband now, shook his hand and said, thank you for doing for my sons what I can't do for them. Your father loved you. He was just stuck in an addiction pattern, and I don't have all the answers for that. It's very hard to have those conversations with our adopted sons, even for their sister who's biological to us, to hear those stories. It's very sensitive topics that we're talking about. These parents do love their children, and when I said to you about the biological families and relationship, that was not I had to learn that. I went through the same emotions that you just verbalized there was definitely times where I was angry at the biological families for what these children had to experience. And some of it valid. But they're made in God's image, and I hope to spend eternity with them someday. And how do we do that if I'm filled with hate towards them? And so, it's definitely a learning and a mind shift, and it's a mental game. Like, I have to constantly remind myself
who's in control.
Who's in control. Because and even with relationships with the Department of Social Services, who's in control. Ultimately, Lord willing, everyone's doing the best with the resources they have.
Correct.
And so how can I come alongside and be a team player and do what's in the best interest of this child and this family, not mine. Even though I have my own interests,
Just pivoting a little bit, I remember Kendra saying that, I know this started with going to the DSS offices, but now I hear that local law enforcement offices are like, we need this too, and that's really taking off. Can you kind of touch on that for me?
Yes, we actually just did a ribbon cutting. I don't know when you're going to release this, but we just did a ribbon cutting this week for Spartanburg Sheriff's Office.
Wow.
And it's our first law enforcement office. I love to share this story because it just shows, once again, how the Lord is going before us. So next year will be 5 years of LilyPad, and our 5-year goal was to have a LilyPad in every DSS office in each county. There's one in each county of South Carolina. We will have that next year, which is just amazing, incredible. Well, knowing that, my husband and I were praying, Lord, what's next? We have a vision and an idea of where we think these rooms could be helpful or the next steps. But also, we have to take into account a nonprofit is a business. We have to think about where funds might come from, where this is going to be successful, where it's most needed. But with my husband's background in law enforcement, absolutely, we knew they could be helpful in law enforcement offices. There's situations where women and children are brought into a law enforcement office, and they're not going to remove the children from the mother, but they're waiting for a shelter. Well, I was doing a site visit with Kendra in Oconee County for their DSS office, and I got a phone call. And I never picked up numbers I didn't know before, but now I do. So my phone's going off the hook all the time. And it was Sergeant Sarah Arms. She's the sergeant over the Special Victims Unit at Spartanburg Sheriff's Office. And she said, she introduced herself. She said, I heard about you months ago. I've been watching your website and your social media. My captain just gave me permission to call you. I had to take a victim of sexual assault into an interrogation room to interview her. And I never want to do that again. And she said, would you consider doing this in a law enforcement office? And I said, I do not know if you're a believer, but you are an answer to our prayers. And I explained to her that we've been praying for this. And so that was beginning of this year, and we just cut the ribbon on the first law enforcement office. And then get this, the sheriff is an adoptive father.
Really?
Yes. And I didn't even know that. We went for the ribbon cutting, met the sheriff, and he was behind the scenes, even though we didn't know it, all into this already. He understood what we were doing with DSS offices and how important it was, and he wanted this for his community. And he said, I'm willing to champion you to any of my counterparts in any other city across South Carolina. Everybody there, all the investigators with the Special Victims Unit, they all want this for the people that they serve.
I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking more of the children that maybe they bring and have to bring them back to the office to do some paperwork before they wait on a social worker to maybe come pick them up, or they have to drive them to that room. But it's like, well, if they had one there, you know, so
it's absolutely that too.
And that's just kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't even think about moms or just, you know, in a room that you like. I'm thinking an interrogation room is like what I see on TV.
It is.
You know, in movies it's just a
thinking.
Table and 2 chairs and a glass, you know, kind of thing behind where somebody's watching, and we just started like, how uncomfortable. But I'm sitting here going, man, if I was in a just extremely nice room and we can just have just have a conversation. This doesn't necessarily feel like an interrogation now. It's just I'm here to help, but I just need to know the information and what you do know so we can, you know, move forward. That's really cool.
Not taking away the situation that has happened, but decreasing any added trauma to what is already a traumatic situation.
Like you said, the rocking chair calms people, heart rate goes down, able to retain information more. If you're in a more, you know, safe feeling environment, you are going to be a little bit more calmer and maybe more mentally aware of what's going on and how to answer and move forward.
Eliminate some distractions. We have sound machines in the room still, so they can put that on a soft sound, and that will eliminate some of the office noise. We had a local electrician come in, and he took out the lights and just put in newer LED lights and put them on a dimmer. And then we have our lamps and our sconces and put those on a dimmer. And once again, just show the investigators how to use this space, what's available to them.
I mean,
the victims
literally have thought of everything. It's so neat, you know.
The victims same.
And I'm sure every time you do a room and then somebody comes and uses it, they might have an idea of like, oh, if this, you know, if we had this, and you're like, oh, we can implement that, you know.
Well, yes. And I just got a call from Sergeant Sarah Arms yesterday. She said somebody else, another division, saw what you were doing, and they wanted, And
we know the Duncan Fire and police people here pretty well. Brad knows them, you know, because they do a lot of work with us, and you know, have them out here on campus a good bit and try to support them. So I don't know how big their offices are, if they have a space for that, but I'll definitely try to get you in touch with them. Or I didn't know if it was more county, like, you know, with law enforcement, it's like, hey, anybody that's within this county can just bring the child to this room.
We talked about that, like regional spaces, but anybody that wants it, if it's going to care for women and children, victims, we are happy to consider it. And, you know, if we can implement it as resources and people allow. The space at Spartanburg's 7 by 12. It's not very big at all. But if you go to our website and look at it, there's enough for a love seat for a victim to sit with a partner to comfort them, space for the investigator to sit. There's a little play area for kids, because sometimes women bring their children with them. And we put in one of those frame TVs that looks like art when it's not in use. And then provided Bluetooth headphones so that if they do have a child with them, they can hook it to the TV, and then that might allow for more private conversations between the investigator and the mom. But yeah, so it's expanded our mission from children experiencing foster care to vulnerable youth and adults and victim care. And it feels like coming full circle a little bit, but it also feels brand new. But Ashlyn was a survivor of sexual assault, and she's 19 now. Back to the first teenager that's now brought into our home, that's now my niece. She just finished her first year of college, and she's home, and I was talking to her. She advocates with us with Lily Pad. She wants to do as much as she can. She says she's going to come back and take my job, and I'm like, you can have it, girl. You can have it. How cool would it be to be run by a former foster youth, you know, and she's the one that planted the seed for it. But as we were moving into law enforcement, I had, you know, a conversation with her aunt to niece. How much of your story do you want to share related to sexual assault? because it's going to come up with moving into victim care.
Yeah.
And she said, Auntie, I want to share it all. I want girls to know that they can tell somebody, that somebody will listen, and that something will be done about it. And she actually got up and spoke at the ribbon cutting in front of media, in front of all these investigators. She's made a profession of faith since coming into our family and coming to know the Lord, and just she should hate the world and everybody in it. She's been failed by adults countless times, but
be justified with
but God, and we're all so excited about what the Lord's doing in her life and how He's going to use her, and we just love being a small part of it and watching her. So it is really cool to be able to serve youth experiencing foster care in the DSS realm, and then now victim care. It's her story, it's her life experience. And as an aunt and an uncle, when you have a child come into your family, children come into your family who have been failed by adults so much, how do you build trust with them? And LilyPad has been a way for us to do that. This child, she told us something that she would like to see change, and we were in a position to be able to rally people around us and do it, and it has been a way to build trust. And then praise the Lord that the Lord worked in my sister's heart to adopt these girls, because as much as they love their uncle, as much as they love my father, their papa, those girls needed a home without a man in it to feel completely safe and comfortable. And so I love how the Lord's been at work in our family. I did not love going through the situation with Lily. But two things can be true. You know, we can miss her deeply and love our nieces and the fact that they're a part of our family. And I look at those girls and I have told them to their faces, I would do this all again to have you here. And obviously we know the Lord was at work. I don't know if LilyPad would have came to be if we didn't go through all of that. So we're just walking forward in faith. And as the Lord,
well, God knew all along.
He knew.
He knew all along.
Knew.
I can look back on so many instances in my life that, you know, it's like at the time I had no clue. And then you look back and you're like, thank you. You know, and some of it was heartache, you know, like, thank you for removing me from that. 'Cause I would have gone down with it. You know, I would have been so involved because it was my plan or my idea, you know, and then it's like, why is this falling apart? And then you start finding out certain things with other people, and you're just like, thank you for protecting me. You know, and during that time, I couldn't see it. I didn't know. And then now when something bad's happening or it's not going the way that we think we want it to go, I just, you know, I have more of a peace now of just, you know, it's going to work out. And that's experience, you know, and it's hard to tell that to a child. They don't have that experience. And, but hopefully these examples through your ministry, your mission is going to give them something to draw back on and say, you know, this did work out and I am going to get through this. And it goes to the mental, you know, I think the mental health part of it, it's, you know, dealing with that stuff where they're probably always going to have it in the back of their mind and deal with it. You know, we're starting a counseling center. We're remodeling the whole downstairs of this building, and going to make it a whole counseling center.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
and all different types of counseling for people. It's huge on Brad's heart and what we want to do with, you know, not just be a foster care.
We're attending a church now that's doing the same thing.
Really?
Which is amazing. Licensed counselors coming into the church.
So, and when Brad said that, I was like, we have a room right down here that's kind of like our counseling room. It's got a couch and some stuff in it. And I was like, Brad, I was like, Jenny's coming today. I was like,
you want me to take a look?
I was like, I'm wondering if there's something that like placement agencies like us that have an actual office, like, you know, but then it was like, well, who takes care of it? Who stays with the children and all that stuff? And I was like, well, we'll find that out later. But
we got all those logistics.
I was like, you know, it's going to be a year or so probably until all of that's completed. But, you know, that's something that we want to provide the families that live here on campus, plus the families that foster with us that are off campus, to be able to have specific, you know, counseling for these children to come and, you know, once a week and pour into them in a different way.
It's going to be huge. I mean, I'm glad to know that and to pray about it. And
so maybe that's the next thing. You can go talk. We
Yeah.
can get you in touch with some placement agencies.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm willing to talk to anybody. And that's what I told Sergeant Sarah Arms when she called me yesterday. She was asking my permission to give my number out. And I said, yes, if it has to do with women, children, families, please, by all means, I'll have that conversation. It might, maybe you might look at it and think it doesn't fit within the box of what we do, but maybe it does. Yep. Or maybe all this coming together can make this happen how it needs to. Yeah. You know, we all have to work together to serve these children and families best. But yeah, I'm very thankful that the Lord knew better than me, even in my times of crying out, you know, why. I had somebody challenge me, don't ask the Lord why, ask the Lord, what am I supposed to learn? Now, at the time, maybe I wasn't ready to hear that, but I hear it now.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah. Don't ask the Lord why. Ask the Lord, what am I supposed to learn from this? And it's helpful now. Well, maybe didn't feel prepared to hear it at the time, but it's weird to say I'm thankful for the times that hurt, because here we are. I'm also thankful for insight into why those things had to happen, because we don't always get answers to why the Lord shut the door. You know, we thought we were supposed to adopt a fourth child, but my sister was supposed to be a mother, and the nieces were supposed to have the girls in our family. And we would have adopted a child and been done fostering. That would have been it. And instead, here we are with an opportunity to serve so many more children. And every child that came through our home, even if they're no longer under our roof, I have an opportunity to know their name and to pray for them by name, and our church family to do the same. And so I encourage anybody, if they're thinking about foster care, start asking the questions, start praying over it. And you do have to make the first move. God's not going to drop it in your lap, or usually not going to drop it in your lap. So you have to say that
put
first,
some work in, take a step, and then you know, your path will kind of open up.
An elder in our church who's been a mentor to my husband, he did a Sunday school class once that was called Just Do Something. And I'm going to dumb it down, way down. You know, it was basically like, don't sit around praying for God to show you for too long. No. You have to step forward in faith and do something. No.
It's like that joke that they say, you know, the guy's on the island, and he's like, I prayed for God to get me off, and like, well, I brought you a boat, a plane, and a helicopter, and you turned them all away.
Right. You have to get into the boat, and you have to, yes, it might be scary to get into the boat and go out into the sea, but you have to get in first and trust that the Lord will take you across the sea. Yeah.
Well, this has gone by real quick. We've gone just a tad over an hour already, but how can people get involved, you know, with Lily Pad? What's the best way to maybe reach out, or you know, I'm assuming just maybe go to the website?
Yeah, the best way is we have a contact form on our website, and it comes directly to me and then to Kendra on our team, and we can see you know, whatever the need is. We have needs for maintenance partners in every county of South Carolina. We have many maintenance partners already set up, but it's great if you can have a team.
And that's, when you say that was kind of like the churches that have like maybe a small group come in and clean. I'm going to mention that to our church this Sunday. And
we have opportunities for putting furniture together. We have a local church that donated rooms to us to use kind of like a storage unit and warehouse. So now we ship all the furniture here, put it together here, pack it up, and take it to the installs. We used to ship everything to the DSS office, which was a lot of packages for them to receive. Yeah.
And then having crew to come out there, you know, and travel to put all that stuff together. So now you just put it all together and just drive it to it.
Yeah, and it provides a lot more opportunities for our local volunteers, because we're from this area. So we have a lot more people that want to help. So we have those opportunities. We need sponsors as far as people willing to sponsor a lily pad space. Okay. And then I just like to know, you know, we've had foster parents reach out, and just if people have any questions or think, well, maybe I could help in this way or that, I don't want people to hesitate to reach out. Reach out. I'm an open book. So is my husband. Love to meet the different people and see how we can work together to serve. So through our website, there's a contact form. There's also a sign up for a newsletter.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's opportunities on there to become one of our monthly donors. But I love to get people in and involved in volunteering, and then they choose to give how they'd like.
Well, what an incredible story. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. And I know you're extremely busy. You probably got 10 more appointments to go to right after this.
I actually don't.
Well,
Fridays
good.
are
Friday-
my
well,
husband's
good.
day off, so I
Aw.
really try to save my afternoon. So you got my morning.
Well, I'm very, very thankful and to know more about your organization and how people can get involved. And, you know, if you're listening, we'll put the website up, for you guys to, to see and go to. Please reach out. Great work that's being done, and I encourage you, please go to the website and look at some of the pictures of these rooms. You'll just be blown away, and I think you'll look at it and go, oh wow, I kind of want to be a part of this, because I know that's how it made me feel.
I'd love to have you.
So thank you so much, Jenny. Appreciate you being on the show.
We're gonna go look at your room.
God bless. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go do it. But God bless you, your
Thank
mission, your heart for Christ, especially you and your husband. And I know that I don't want to, put him on the back burner. He's just as much a part of this, as
very
you
much
are.
so.
And I can definitely, see that both of y'all have that same passion and heart for wanting to do this.
Thank you.
So
for saying that.
thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
All right.